Gözümüzün içine baka baka parçalıyorlar bizi. Sonra enerji kaynaklarını ele geçiriyorlar. Yenilmişlik psikolojisi aşılıyorlar bize. Finans kapitali bize dayatıyorlar. Pazarlarımızı kontrol ediyorlar. İnancımızı değiştirmeye çalışıyorlar. İçime sindiremiyorum ya. Ne derseniz deyin. İçime sindiremiyorum.
My name is Mete Gundogan. I am Industrial Engineering Professor in Ankara Yıldırım Beyazıt University, Turkey. I'm also interested in systems engineering and economics, especially economic systems and industrial economics. Hello dears and friends. In this video clip lecture, I would like to share some of my views on the economy, especially on the current banking practices. Economy in general has two spheres. One is to do with the production of goods and services, and the other one is to do with production or creation of money. These two parts are believed to be working in coordination. But is it the case? Are they really in coordination? Let us now look at these two parts in details. Generally, the one who study production of goods and services are taking money as ready and in some forms available in the market. They are not actually studying how money is created, but the cost of money supplied. Engineers, for example, are studying engineering economy to compare the economic values of alternative design options, cash flow analysis, time value of money, cash flows, etc. With the current technical and technological capabilities, wealth creation, which is the production of goods and services, is not the problem. Problems in this area lay in the optimization of it with respect to various objectives. These objectives are mainly cost minimization and profit maximization. Production is to transform raw material into goods to transfer money from a set of holders to another. In the production sphere, no good or service is transformed against nothing. Money is the main medium of transfers. However, it is surprising that very few people from the production area are working on the financial counterpart of the production, which is money and its creation and accumulation. But nowadays, we have a severe problem, that is the global financial crisis. Current Western banking practices has produced enormous amount of money in numbers. These numbers have let the financial system be in a global financial crisis. Ironically, these abundant numbers have also become an obstacle for the production of goods and services. It is true that money is an age-old metric and is used by everyone without questioning how it is created. Engineers are engineering materials. How do they use meter, thermometer, grams, degrees, etc.? They use money in the same sense. Money is taken as de facto existence of measurements, but in fact, money is always in short of encompassing the costs of production. Labor would never buy all the goods and services produced. Do you know why? Let us have a look at this. A product price consists of labor costs, material costs, overhead expenses, taxes, profits, and etc. Since labor cost is not the only cost of production, then we can say it is less than prices. If wages, like labor costs, are reduced by a certain amount, the ratio of purchasing power to prices is also reduced. On the other hand, businessmen are trying to minimize costs and to maximize profits. This is an economic dilemma. The objective is lessening the labor costs, but lessening the labor costs reduce the population's ability to buy goods and services produced. If goods and services are not sold, the business will disrupt. So in general, we can divide all production costs in two groups: payments to individuals and other payments. And we know prices should be greater than these costs together. Therefore, individuals will never cover the whole prices. There has got to be some intermediate producer of purchasing power for the individuals. Who then are these intermediate producers of purchasing power, and how are they producing additional money? These are very important questions, and we must look at the entire money creation mechanism to find answers. To cut it short and precise, banks are creating money. The gap is closed by banking system with the power of creating money. The power is not given to the banking mechanism. They have de facto assumed it. The current monetary system is the debt-based monetary system, the DBMS. The system is producing all of the money stock as debt, and the debt is affecting everything in our life. At the moment, economy needs to create new jobs to reduce the unemployment. That means interest rates must be reduced. People will then borrow money both to spend and to invest. That is the current wisdom about how to achieve a healthier economy. In other words, in order for the economy to improve, either more people must get into debt, or those who are already in debt must get deeper into debt. This is one of the characteristics of the DBMS. Debt, which was once a source of shame, has become an essential part of the modern lifestyle. In order to understand the DBMS, it is essential to comprehend how money is created. Now, I will show you with the help of an infographic how it is created. The parliament in a country passes a decree indicating that the money created by the central bank is the only legal tender to be used. Central banks then create money based on empirical and theoretical estimations. The money created by central banks is given to banks with an interest rate, say I. Then banks sell that money with a reasonable profit, let's say I plus 1 interest rate, to people for production or consumption. Later on, people pay that money, credit, back to banks with the interest rate I plus B on due time. Banks then pay money back to the central bank with the interest rate I. This is initial cycle that brings money into existence. Money is introduced to the market as debt, as you see. Money is debt. If you look at this scheme from this money creation point of view, we would understand why orthodox economists want central banks to be independent. Bankers want to keep their reign over the economy as a whole. Furthermore, if we take a closer look at the mechanism, we see it accumulates debt rather than welfare, and mechanism is unstoppable. Let me explain this in plain words. Suppose the system is at the state of nature and the first lot of money, M, created and is lent to a bunch of banks with an interest rate I for a maturity date T. Suppose the central bank will not create any more money until the date T plus 1. Then how the banks will pay their debts back to central bank with interest rate I? This is surely not possible because the total amount of money in the system is M, created by central bank, and the total amount of money the central bank is demanding back is M plus I% of M. Therefore, banks will compulsorily ask more money to pay their debts. Then they will naturally get deeper into debt. This is a deathly recursive mechanism, drifting all the system into a chaos. This is initial cycle and malfunctioning. It is not working. The function of interest here is to restructure the mechanism as debt-based mechanism. Let us now try to see the entire system's balance. We should then look at the monetary numbers produced throughout the system. I will give you Turkish Central Bank's figures for this. The amount of money created by the central bank is approximately 125 billion Turkish liras in the beginning of 2070s. On the other hand, if we look at the total money sold by banks, either as consumption or production credit, is about 1765 billion Turkish lira in the same period. Now, if the central bank is creating 125 billion TL, how come the banks are giving 1765 billion TL credit money to their customers? Who creates the remaining 1641 billion TL, as much as 14-fold money, and how? Who gives the authority to create such an amount of money to the banks? Well, this is generally explained with money multipliers. This is also called fractional reserve system. These are generic terms used for Western banking systems practiced in almost all countries today. You can easily find these explanations in macroeconomy books. I will explain it with another infographic. Suppose a bank customer 1 brought to a banknote of 100 units money to deposit. Bank gives a receipt for the money. He then leaves the bank confident that he can spend his money in the marketplace with security. Suppose next customer 2 comes to the bank because he wants to purchase customer 3's car and he is short of money. He would like to borrow 90 units of money. The bank finds him creditworthy and therefore lends him the money he is asking. Customer 2 pays the money to the customer 3, and then customer 3 becomes the bank's second depositor, leaving his 90 units of money into the bank. The bank gives him a receipt, and customer 3 leaves also the bank, confident that he too can spend his money in the marketplace with security. Now, what is bank's position? The bank has one amount of money deposited in the bank and have issued 2 receipts against it. The only difference for each deposit is the reserve requirement. The reserve requirement is affecting the initial amount of money in decreasing order as 190 81 and on. How much credit a bank can give in this case? This can then be calculated with a geometric series computations. If the case is this, then the result is a finite amount of money. So, within this case, a bank cannot give as much as it wants. It's bound by a reserve ratio. But, on the other hand, banks do not feel to be bound by such ratios because they do practically not wait for an additional amount of money to come to the bank. They just issue credit if they find someone creditworthy. Then they give reserve requirements for the central banks. I will explain this case in another infographic. Now suppose a bank customer 1 brought to a banknote of 100 units of money to deposit. Bank gives him a receipt for the money. He then leaves the bank confident that he can spend his money in the marketplace with security. Then suppose the bank deposited the whole amount of money, in this case 100 units, with the central bank as reserve requirement. Now, what is the bank saying to central bank? The bank is saying that someone has deposited 1,000 units of money with it. The bank is now confident to issue 1,000 units of money to next customer 2. Customer 2 purchased customer 3's house, for instance. Then customer 3 becomes the bank's second depositor, leaving his 1,000 units of money to the bank. The bank gives him a receipt and customer 3 leaves also the bank, confident that he too can spend his money in the marketplace with security. In this case, the reserve requirement is affecting the initial amount of money in increasing order as 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 and on. Now tell me, how much credit a bank can give? The answer is yes, as much as they want. Mathematics of the geometric series do not work here because fractional reserve system is applied in reverse order in this case. They are only bound by some other ratios as credit capital ratios if they apply. By issuing many claims against the same amount of money, banks mislead also the marketplace. They believe that a lot of money exists than actually exists. This practice of banks can go on as much as they want. In other simple words, banks can create as much money as they want with a stroke of a pen by giving credit. Do they have right of creating new ownership out of nothing? With the current mechanism, de facto yes. But in fact, this is another way of looting people's money or people's wealth. Current monetary mechanism reproduces money, but money doesn't reproduce itself, nor can it. Bankers are also aware of the fact that they are taking risk. From time to time, depositors at particular banks became worried about whether there was sufficient amount of money available to meet their claims. If too many depositors arrive at the same time to a bank, then the business of that bank will disrupt. The modern banking mechanism motors on relentlessly increasing simultaneously both the money supply and the burden of debt in the DBMS. Each new claim represents a new debt. As the number of claims grew, so too did the number of personal, business and governmental debt. Now, citizens of a country elect a parliament. Parliament charges central bank with the responsibility of creating and maintaining a stock of money for their use. The government then licenses banks to lend money created for them. With the current credit issuing practice, banks create more money out of a thin air with a stroke of a pen. One of the most curious aspects of this arrangement is that the banks do not pay a cent piece by way of royalty or license fee to the government. To say the least, this is not a commercial arrangement. Worst of all, when the government needs to spend more money on our behalf, it borrows money from the pool created by the banking system. Then we have to pay both the one-off cost and the running cost of annual interest on it. This is neither a commercial nor a reasonable arrangement. Money which is created, circulated, and accumulated in a country is the solely financial base of socio-economic systems. There should be some reasonable relationship between the two parts, the amount of money in circulation and the amount of goods and services in production. The relationship between the two can be seen in such an infographic. This is I call natural economic cycle, the NEC. How much money should be created in an economy is not an independent technical issue. It is surely a political issue. It can be calculated in different ways. For instance, the number of people can be taken as an input to calculate, or a pre-estimated economic development level for a region can be taken as an input. Furthermore, it can also be calculated according to a debt level to be paid. Finally, money can be produced according to the current financial stream. You see, we have many different ways of calculating the amount of money to be in circulation. Of course, how that money should be introduced to the system is another important issue. Currently, money is injected into the system from top to down. Money is taken as credit from banks by the ones who have sufficient collaterals. They are generally rich entrepreneurs who are expected to invest in the business. Once a business is established, mid or lower class people are expected to work there and get their shares, purchasing power, as labor force. Then from them money goes to shopkeepers and so on. As you understand here, it takes time and the amount of money is lost at every level bit by bit down to the man on the bottom level. You will never convince a rich man to give up some of his money for the sake of poor ones. In fact, the poor ones do have rights in rich man's money, and they don't get it because of the current system. Hence, the money should be introduced to the system from the bottom to the top. Therefore, certain amount of money should be given to the people at the bottom to create effective demand. Actually, existence of money is to support the production cycle of goods and services. Two cycles flow against each other. No good or service is transferred from one place to another unless money is counter-transferred. Therefore, these two cycles should be balanced. The amount of money in circulation can be equated to the amount of goods and services produced. To produce and maintain such an equation should be the number one duty of an economy management. In order to establish such a scheme, functions of central banks together with other banks should be redefined. Current banking mechanism is not creating money, but is creating debt. We are all indebted because of the current system. In fact, the mechanics of money creation is working just the other way around. Money reproduces itself out of nothing but owns goods and services. This is actually largest redistribution of wealth by bankers. Current money credit system is allowing bankers to exercise a power which is not given to them by the people. This power should be reorganized from a different perspective. Worse, if the government had itself printed hundreds of billions of liras that the banks produced, it could have paid off the entire national debt. Nor would it have to pay tens of billions of interest yearly. We could now have the finest infrastructure, the finest public transportation system, the finest national health facilities, the finest education facilities, and the finest energy supply that can be obtained. And also, there can be no equality of opportunity according to merit under the DBMS. A person with a sound idea and not assets finds it extremely difficult to get his idea financed. But a person, on the other hand, with an unsound idea and assets will have little difficulty to get his ideas financed. Redefinition of the system will be consequently redistribution of the wealth in a just and better manner by the people themselves or by the representatives of the people, in other words, parliaments and governments. Finally, what I am saying is to correct the DBMS with a set of just rules and principles based on the NEC, natural economic cycle. Well, this is it for the moment. I hope you have better days. Thank you very much for listening and goodbye.
Gözümüzün içine bak.